Well guys, it's Friday, oh geez, 10, Friday the 10th, about 7:30, somewhere around 7:30 in the afternoon. It's been a long hot day. I'm sure a lot of you guys know it was up around 90, a little over 90 today. This is my second, which I was going to have them and I'm still going to have them. Formerly questions and answers or Q&A. I'm changing the name, as I mentioned in some of the other videos, just so you want to know. And that way people can ask questions, and I'll try to answer some of the questions. But sometimes I have a hard time getting back to people. And this is sometimes an easier way for me to do it. Plus gives me a reason to do a video. I actually like doing the videos. It just keeps me from being bored here. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get to it. This is actually not a question, but in a way it is a question. It's not a question about the homestead. Now this question was from about a month ago. And this is one that the guy asked. I apologize, but I don't know his name, but his channel is Southern Pioneer 1965. He doesn't have a lot of videos on there, and if I'm not mistaken, he's from Florida. He bought property up in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken again, out in the boonies, he calls it, and I agree. And he's basically going to do the same thing, and that's what he's working on. But he has a family apparently, and he has some younger kids, so his stories are a lot different than mine. I don't have any very young kids. It's just me and my wife. I don't know his whole situation, but his question was how I felt about or getting around building codes. Well, I've been in the building trade pretty much all my life. To be honest with you, I have cheated sometimes. I've built things. I've done remodels without permits. Sometimes you do them, and it's not. It's really to save money. It's just that all the bureaucratic red tape the government puts you through sometimes to get these permits. I mean, just to do a simple remodel sometimes, or do a very, very small addition, or just to put a wall up, they'll make you draw blueprints, and you got to have an engineer approve them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's a money racket. That's all it is. But now, for instance, where I'm at, and I was surprised. I didn't know this because I'm so used to dealing with the city where you have to have a permit just to put a sign in your front yard, basically. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, they're in the city down there. They're really, really strict on everything. I asked the realtor when we bought the property. I said, "How strict are they on building codes here?" I said, "Because I'm planning on building my own and doing everything myself, and I'll pull the permits or whatever, and then just do it myself. I'm not going to hire contractors to do it, because a lot of people don't know. No matter what it is, well, I'm not going to say what it. From what I understand, the septic you have to be certified. Now that's an EPA, and people do it, and it's okay. As long as you have someone do it and put it in the right way. But that's an EPA thing, if I'm not mistaken. No matter what state or county, no matter where you live, you have to have some kind of permit or okay from the EPA. And it's right. I mean, you should, because you could contaminate somebody's well or anything else, or your own well. And that's the last thing you want to be doing, is contaminating your own water source. So that, honestly, you should do, unless you really, really know what you're doing, or find somebody that knows what they're doing, if you don't know. Don't just take it on if you don't know. But anyway, I asked him about how strict they were on the building codes and everything, because the old house, I mean, I could tell there was a lot of work, if not all of it, been done in there with no permits. And the first thing he said, "What permits?" I says, "Well, the building permits, the electrical permits, plumbing permits, He said, we don't have inspectors. He said, there are no permits. We don't have a government, county government that handles that. So we don't have to deal with that. You're on your own. And I was surprised, so I checked into it because I don't, realtors sometimes will tell you anything they can to sell you sorry about that, mosquitoes, but to sell your property. So I checked into it and come to find out, there are none. I mean, literally, there are none. You're on your own. You can build it any way you want. You can do anything you want. Now, as some of you know, and I didn't film it or anything, but when I moved in, I was running off a 100 amp service that was hooked to that house. That's all they had hooked to that house. And I disconnected all the old wiring out of there and I connected a couple of receptacles and stuff, and I had a outside box that I could run the camper off of, and then the receptacles off the old panel box. I could run cords off of and stuff. And but I knew doing this up here, even though we're not planning on using a lot of electricity, but you never know, because I'm actually going to put a heat pump in here. As a backup in the winter, we're planning on burning wood, but you always want to back up. I mean, I just want to make sure if the fire goes out, wood runs out, we got heat. So anyway, I called and had them here in Missouri, or at least in this county, they are responsible for everything on the pole. The main breaker, everything, the weatherhead, the whole works. Anything below the main breaker, the homeowner or the property owner is responsible for. So I didn't want to stretch a big old 2-aught cable from there to here. So what I done, and plus we have a lot of ice storms here. I decided I was going to bury it in the ground, which is what I've been working on, kind of off and on, and actually worked on a little today. But anyway, I don't want to stay on that. But anyway, they come out, they send an engineer out. And I asked him, he says, here's a piece of paper that basically gives you what we would like you to do and how we would like you to install it. He says, I looked at your cable. He says, you got the right kind of cable to bury it, which is good. He said, now, we can't make you put it 2 foot in the ground. He said, but we wish you would put it 2 foot in the ground for safety reasons. And I'm putting it more than 2 foot in the ground for my own safety reasons. There's a lot of voltage going through there. I know where it's running, but I want to make sure. So anyway, he was basically telling me you can run it any way you want because they're not responsible after that, and they can't make you do it any way you want. Now, getting back to Southern Pioneer 1965's question, my opinion is if you're out in the boonies, you'll probably get away with it. But if you're going to do it without, and I am no way telling you to do it without a permit. This is your call, this is your choice, or anybody else listening to this video, watching this video. It's your own call. You're doing this at your own risk. I mean, every county, every state has different rules and laws and about this. I mean, it's nothing criminal, but it can cost you a ton of money. Out in the boonies, you're probably not going to get caught unless you tell people what you're doing. And then you're going to get somebody that, for whatever reason, they don't even have to be mad at you. They can just be a pain in the butt to people, and they'll report you. If you're going to do part of it with permits, my suggestion is do it all with permits. Because once you open that can of worms with one permit, they know what you're doing out there, and they will keep up with it. Big Brother is always watching. People don't realize it, but they're always watching. For instance, I had a friend one time that was doing a big addition on a house, and he thought he was smart enough that he could get away with it. The homeowner was all for it because he was doing it cheaper he was doing it right, and he was doing it the way it should be built, safely, but they would have never approved it. It's the reason why they were doing it. Well, he thought he could get away with it. Well, he did get away with it up until almost the very end. And an inspector was a few buildings down, houses down, inspecting something, heard the construction and everything going on, saw the trucks out there, went up and looked and asked where the permit was, and he told him he didn't have any permits. So he told him cease and desist. Basically, he told him stop working, lock up everything, and get off the property. It cost him a ton of money. He had to go hire an engineer. They had to draw up blueprints, even though they already had it done, of how they were going to do it, or did do it, or want to do it. The engineer, which is very hard to do, to get someone that you don't know them to come in there and sign off on something that they can't see, because they don't know what's behind the wall. They got to really trust you. Or they'll make you tear some walls down or do whatever so they can check certain things. Anyway, he ended up getting it, but it ended up costing him a ton of money. And the thing is, he tried to lie his way out of it. At first, he told them that he didn't do some of the work. And the reason I'm saying Big Brother's always watching, and a lot of you guys know what Google Earth is. He told him he didn't do a lot of that work. Well, the guy come back a couple days later with pictures from Google Earth showing him that at one time there was no building there. And then all of a sudden now there's a building there on Google Earth. So they actually go to Google Earth now. Being out in the boonies, or very rural, I don't see them doing that, but there's a very good possibility they could do it with longitudes and latitudes, and find your property and prove that at one time 6 months ago there was no building there. Now all of a sudden 6 months later there's a building there, and you're telling them that's always been there. So they're not really that stupid, but it can get done, and I have done it, and I know a lot of people have done it and gotten away with it. The city and the counties, it's all about money to them. They want money. One way or the other, they want your money. And I can go into story after story after story. The main thing is, if you're going to do it, I don't know if it's a wasp, do it safely, do it right. Especially if you got a family and you're going to be living in it. Don't build anything if you don't really know what you're doing. If you're not sure, ask someone that does know, but again, you got to be careful who you're asking, because then they know what you're doing. They get mad for whatever reason, they want to report you, they report you, then it can cause you a lot of problems. Then they make sure you have every permit for everything else. So anyway, and I'm not trying to discourage you from doing it without permits, because like I said, I got lucky out here. The only drawback around here for people doing what I'm doing is if they don't know what they're doing, they could really get hurt. They could seriously hurt their family if they don't build something right or they do something wrong. So that's a big drawback, people being able to do. But they've done it for years around here, and you can actually see it in some of the buildings. But yeah, it's a big drawback. But the main thing, just do it safely. Do it very, very safely. And again, this is only my opinion. So, and I'm not trying to discourage you, because I know sometimes they don't like to give you permits for certain things, and you want to do them, they're safe and they're okay. They just don't want to give you permits. So, all right, guys, I've been on here, I know, way too long. I'm going to get off of here and get in, and until the next time, I'm going to sign off, and you guys like the videos, give me a big thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and appreciate all you guys. Have a good night.